Hi guys, and welcome to the very first In Deep Geek live stream. It is fantastic to be here, and I am really pleased to have one of my favorite people in the community, an amazing Game of Thrones theorist and an incredibly ruggedly handsome man, Kyle. Azor Ahype, could you introduce yourself to people, please?
Hey everyone, I'm Azor Ahype, but you guys can call me Kyle if you want. I'm a YouTuber that likes to do Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire material. You may have seen me from certain podcasts named The Citadel of Hype, and yeah, really happy to be here. First ever live stream, dude. This is a big deal, right? You've been on my and Gemma's channel before though.
Yeah, I've done live streams on other people's, but this is the first time on my own channel. So it's I've got all the buttons that I've got to press, and so I'm trying to keep an eye on about 5 million things. If anything goes wrong, it's just me pressing the wrong button. So so don't worry about that. But I'm so in your words, I'm so hyped by the fact that there are actually people here, and I'm looking at the people in the live chat. So I just want to sort of say a few people I saw there: Sonia, Josh Scott, Amberlyn. Who else have we got here? Vapin, Two Pieces, One Puzzle, Tim Elf, and 55 Beulah, Pablo, loads of people there. Thanks. Hi, everyone. Great to see you all. Justin Thomas show. I'm coming on the Justin Thomas show some point later this weekend. Great to see you guys. I thought what we'd do today is that I want to pick up sort of on the subject that we started on at a live stream we did with Sir Hunts a few days ago, which is about the Starks. And I said something that made Kyle just go like that, which was that I wondered whether the only Stark that was going to survive all of this was going to be Sansa. And so I thought we didn't have time to unpick it properly there, but maybe we've got time to do it here. So, Carl, have you got any sort of start-off thoughts on that one?
Yeah, so here's the thing. I don't disagree with you in the fact that I think Sansa's going to survive. I think she's going to be one of the handful of people that are left at the end of the story picking up the pieces that cripples, bastards, and broken things. This is kind of what we've been going back to over and over again. And I think it's important to say that I disagree with you, Robert, that Sansa's going to be the only one. I know we disagree on quite a bit, but we still keep it civil. But I think that the only Stark that's going to die is Bran, and we'll talk about that. But for Sansa, I think she's the survivor. She's this I want to say Iron Wolf. In the books, it's a little bit different because she's still making that progression. We don't have the 6th or 7th book yet. But I think she's going to definitely, for book purposes, make some moves in the Vale. I know a lot of people think that her and Arya the Heir are going to be a thing. I think she's going to totally manipulate the crap out of him. He's got zero chance of making it out of whatever situation he's in. And in the show, look at who she's learned from. The Queen of Thorns, Cersei, Littlefinger. Look at what she's had to endure. She watched her father die with her own eyes, getting his head chopped off, and she had to endure Ramsay Bolton. I don't think at this point, they could just kill her off. It would be anticlimactic for me. Now, if a White Walker got her or something, I'd be like, okay, like, is that really cheerworthy? Is that where her story is going? No, I think that we either have the situation where Sansa, starts to recognize her roots again, which we saw a little bit of last season where she finally felt safe within the confines of Winterfell. She's like, you know what? All of that Southern stuff, it wasn't really that great for me now that I realize it. But she had to go through failure to realize that. So we see each of these characters, and I don't want to say hero's journey because it's not a hero's journey for every character, but on a pseudo-hero's journey where they're going on these ups and downs. And I just think she's going to be, if Jon and Daenerys die, her and Tyrion are 100% ruling Westeros. And that's something that we agree on, actually. So
it is. I mean, shall we start on Sansa then? I think, and if we work our way through the remaining Stark. So just so we know where we are, I reckon there were 9 to start with. We lost Ned, we lost Catelyn, we've lost Benjen, we've lost Rickon, and we've lost Robb. So we got 5 gone, and there are 4 left. Got Sansa, Arya, Bran, and let's call Jon Stark. So let's go through those 4 and work out what roughly we think their fate is. And I think we'll probably find some of them might be different on the show to how they are in the books.
Yeah, absolutely. So, especially Rickon. I mean,
yes.
We can still consider Rickon alive in the books.
Well, he is, but I think he's going to die in the books as well.
Shaggy dog. You know what? Let's just cross that one off right now. A shaggy dog story is a story that goes nowhere. Rickon's going to die. All right, we're moving on.
Agreed, 100%. Sansa, lady. If we're going to go down the direwolves thing here, so this is her fate, is to be a lady, the lady in some way. Now, if we pick off the difference between the books and the show here, in the books, she's obviously still in the Eyrie, in the Vale. The Ramsay Bolton storyline doesn't seem to be happening there. My thought is that she's actually going to go on roughly, or end up in roughly the same place in a book's time. She's going to be up there in Winterfell, regardless of what happens in the books. She will go up probably with Littlefinger, end up in Winterfell like she is, and will be in the same kind of position in the books as she is currently in the show now. What do you think to that?
100% in agreement. She's going to end up in Winterfell. There's going to be a huge Stark reunion in the books as well. I mean, if there was 5 more moments that I want to see in the series, books and show, Stark reunion. Got to think that's got to be one of them. And the beautiful thing about this series is we can kind of pick and choose what point of views we like. Some people prefer the Greyjoys over the Starks, and that's totally fine. But I don't know why, but trash talking the Greyjoys. But I think that, for more or less, I think we can kind of root for them. They've been through a lot, and I think anyone that's been through a lot in their lives, myself included, can feel a little empathy for them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, if we're saying, and if we're agreeing, then Sansa is going to say in a book's time she's going to be in roughly the same place she is in the show now. I think for the last book and the last series, she's going to be the sort of the stay-at-home person who's managing things in Winterfell. Jon and Daenerys and loads of other people are going off doing battles and big wars and all the rest of it. But I can see her being the person who's just really rooted in Winterfell. She's going to be the Stark in Winterfell. And I think that means that she is most likely to survive unless Winterfell falls.
I think that Winterfell is going to fall, Robert. Well, not fall completely, but the books, it's hard to compare the books in the show now, but in the show we saw last season her take a little bit more responsibility on when Jon left. Jon put his neck out for her after what she did to him, basically defying him in front of everyone, embarrassing him. And I think that there's a 0% chance she's going to betray Jon after what he did for her. And we got to remember that that they ended up taking Winterfell back from the Boltons. They didn't have Winterfell for a long time. That was, Jon fought in that battle. Sansa did not. Yeah, Sansa went and got the Knights of the Vale, but that's different. But she was talking about grain and the future of how they're going to feed themselves. That's definitely something that is going to be dynamically looked at in the books and the show. I mean, the Long Night is coming, and there's stories of lords and ladies starving in their castles. So I don't know if there's necessarily going to be a time jump. There could be one in the books, Robert. But for the show purposes, I think that we're going to see her take on more of this responsibility politically because of what she's experienced and who she's learned from.
Absolutely. And with Jon, certainly in the show, going to at some point, I think, be exposed as a Targaryen. She is there in place and with Bran checking out of being a human, pretty much. I think she is the main Stark who is holding it all together, doing the job that Ned would have done, and all the Starks before him. So she is there. The question for me is, if Winterfell falls, what happens to her? Is she going to escape?
Yes, I think Sandor is going to be in that scenario. Can I say something that I just thought of? I know this might have been mentioned to me, but I think I've discussed this with someone. Who do you think is the most Starky Stark right now? Think about it. I gotta say that. I mean, Jon's changed quite a bit, right? Also, Bran is quite different, and Arya is quite different. So, I mean, Sansa might be the most Starky Stark right now. It sounds weird that I say Starky Stark, but I mean, it's kind of what's going on right now. Jon's going to find out he's Targaryen. Bran's the three-eyed raven. Arya's a faithless man, basically. But she's going to escape for sure. Are we going to see the Eyrie or places like... I think we're going to see Storm's End. Maybe there could be a retreat to places like that. But yeah, Sansa is... Jon, I think Winterfell is going to get attacked in the first episode, like right at the end of the first episode by the Night King. Maybe early episode 2.
I think the first episode of the next season is going to be all about the Dany and Jon arriving at Winterfell, and there's going to be like a million different things going on there. You brought a Targaryen here. Hey, you're a Targaryen yourself. There's going to be Jaime coming up. So episode 1 of season 8 is going to be all about these mini conflicts within the great coalition that they've got and actually forming it. And then suddenly, perhaps at the end of that episode, we'll see the army of the dead come descending.
You know what's interesting too is how will Sansa react to Jon's true name? Will she have even more respect for him? Because remember how Catelyn and Sansa treated Jon? They both had... Sansa took after her mother when she was younger. They didn't treat Jon very nicely. So imagine the amount of respect that Sansa is also going to have for Ned. And that's part of the reason why. And people are saying, yeah, Sansa's going to... They keep with this same narrative that Sansa's going to do this or that. And I'm like, you know what? Like, the story has progressed. Each character is in a completely different spot than where they've been before. And I think Sansa will have to go south again, which she won't want to do, which is something that we wouldn't even considered before, right? She's going to be displaced again to the south. She's going to feel unsafe again.
Yeah, and I think the one of the perhaps ironic things about Sansa's journey is that she started out as being the least Starkish Stark. The red hair, she was very Tully. She didn't really like the idea of being in the north. She wanted to go south. She wanted to be princess. But she's going to end up being, as you say, the most Starky Stark, which is crazy. So do we think, therefore, if we're trying to wrap up the Sansa thing, that there's no reason in terms of her character development that she would die? So that yes, she could, but it would just be George R.R. Martin being just really annoying and killing her off for no reason.
I'm going to tell you this. There's quite a few people who want to see her alive. Jon would protect her. Brienne. Jaime is going to be there. He made an oath sworn to Catelyn. Can't forget about that. He swore to find Arya and Sansa. So there's that as well. Sandor has an invested interest in her. He cared for her and taught her lessons. So I think Sansa's going to be pretty safe. Tyrion's going to be there, and I think Sansa has a respect for him as well. And I think people will realize how important the women are in the story, because if the Night King continues to get what he wants, nobody's going to be around to reproduce anymore. So, and she's a beautiful young fertile lady, and she's Lady of Winterfell. I mean, she's royalty. They got to get her out of there. She's going to be one of the first people to get evacuated, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so let's call time on Sansa. So the first of our 4 Starks, we're agreed she's going to survive. Okay. Let's go to the second one, because this is one where I think we might start disagreeing. Arya. Now, I think she will probably have different endings in the book and on the show. Now, in the books, I think that her journey is going so dark. It's all about death. It's all about a loss of identity. And I can certainly see that she gets, say, a reunion with Nymeria, and finally she just gets her warging abilities that come out so much more in the books than they do on the show. I think she's going to start warging into Nymeria, and I think that is how her character arc will naturally end, is her running off with her wolf pack. So that is what I think will happen in the books. But I don't think, as they've not gone into the warging with her at all in the show, I don't think that's what's going to happen in the show. What do you reckon, Carl?
I think the same thing is going to happen in the book of the show. I think that Arya is involved in the Valonqar prophecy with Sandor Clegane and Jaime Lannister. See, the word Valonqar is gender neutral. And Arya had to assume, okay, little Ari. I mean, people thought she was a boy. Yoren basically let her know, like, if we don't do this, we don't cut off your hair, we don't hide you, you're a Stark, you're a valuable commodity. The Lannisters want you. So there's that. Also, the Stranger, the God of the Seven in the Faith of the Seven, the one that represents the God of Death, is also gender neutral. I don't know. There's this part of me that believes that she's going to reconnect with the North briefly, but I do see a darker ending. Like with you, Robert, I do think she will be the embodiment of death, essentially the Azor Ahype figure for the Faceless Men, but she doesn't know it. That almost like in the way that Bran doesn't know that he's taking down the wall, essentially, kind of how the gods are acting. How the gods are using humans as conduits. So I still think, though, okay, George's wife's name is Paris. She said that she would murder George if Arya and Sansa don't survive. So I'm not going to rule that out, and that George's actual wife doesn't want these characters to die. I know it sounds silly, but I see both Stark girls surviving. If anything, the terms that the Faceless Men use, Valor Morgulis, all men must die, we might have a story where it's, patriarchy is ended. You know what I mean?
Well, I think that will be a part of it. I think that the Arya not dying thing, I think actually it won't count as her dying if she wargs into Nymeria and goes off. I think that counts to me as being just like a really appropriate end of her finding her true spirit. So Arya as a human will have died, but Arya as the spirit will carry on as a true Stark, as herself, and also as an animal that is all about killing and death.
Here's the thing. I had this thought before that we might see this really sad end to the story where all the Starks are dead and they're all living their second lives as wolves, the ones that are left over. In the books, that could certainly be a possibility because they've explored warging and the supernatural elements of the Starks. However, in the show, we didn't really get that. So I don't think they're going to go that route in the show. I mean, we might get the wolf pack, and they might, be there like a brief type of 2-3 minute thing. We might get some fan service on that, but
I think the show is completely missed out on the warging thing. They did a little bit with Bran just to sort of show he had some sort of spooky powers and the rest of it. But in the books, you get Jon there. It's an incredibly close bond with Ghost, and I think actually in the books, what's going to happen is that he's going to, having been killed, he's going to warg into Ghost and then be brought back from Ghost into his old body.
We'll get into Jon, right? I mean, Melisandre even says, a man, a wolf, a man again in one of her passages. So she straight up says that Jon's going to basically go into his wolf, which sounds kind of weird if we say it like that. But one thing I did want to add, is, Arya talked about what's west of Westeros, and Jon talked about going south. I could see a scenario where both of them walk away, or at least Arya is the one we see in kind of like a Nymeria 10,000 ship scenario where she's like sailing off, and the way she feels comfortable is going off into this new location, kind of like what happened at the end of the Lord of the Rings when Bilbo sailed off with Gandalf, kind of deal. I see personally a sweet ending for her after all she's been through, because she will have had a very dark story. I think we'll get that tiny glimmer of hope with Arya.
Yeah. So, but in the show, that's not really where the wolves isn't really where they're going. But still, we're faced with this problem: is that if she survives, she will kill off or get rid of everyone on her kill list in some way. but what's left for her? She's not going to be a noble lady. That was never what she's about, and it's even less what she's about right now. She's just going to be there going, well, what now? And so on the show, I still can't see a really happy ending. Maybe, as you're right, maybe she just goes away, or maybe on the show they'd send her back to the Faceless Men or something like that. But she's not going to sort of stay in Westeros just doing the Stark thing. I really can't see that.
I don't see it either. Arya is such an interesting character. She's been through so much, but I don't see her biting the dust. I just don't. And she's going to become one of the most powerful characters by the end of the series. But I think that somehow, some way, she finds this little glimmer of hope. What would be an interesting ending? This might be some tinfoil. She goes back to Braavos and becomes an actor, and she's not Arya, but she's someone else. I think that would be really, really interesting. And we kind of had this ambiguous. Maybe the Faceless Men know that she's there, and it's like that eerie Faceless Men and White Walker music, that eerie music in the background. She's just standing there and like thinking of something devious. I could see something like that happening.
I could certainly see something like that. Can we just reassure me that they're not going to do the thing that I really hope they don't do with Arya, is just put her together with Gendry, because Are you with me on this?
Robert, that is the
ending for her character, yeah?
I can't stand that, honestly. I think that Gendry will probably get legitimized. I just don't see them together. I think the reason why everyone is so sentimental about that is because it was a really sweet moment between Ned and Arya. And that's why it's like, I think we all felt pretty bad that Ned died. Like, he was trying to do the right thing. And that was one of the really happy moments we got to see with the Starks. So I think that's why people are still holding on to that hope, but Martin's going to crush that one for you. I don't think Arya will ever be. If anything, she would be a warrior princess and die in battle or something like Lyanna. Like, maybe it's like she wouldn't get pregnant, but maybe she would die in battle or something like that. Like, I don't know. I don't see that fit for her with Gendry. It's just too happy for her.
Excellent. So I think let's round up Arya then. So in the books, we think that she's. I think she's going to end up being warged into Nymeria. You could sort of see some other kind of enigmatic ending for her, perhaps not dying, but sort of going off, perhaps heading off west or something like that. In the show, they might go for something slightly happier, slightly more obvious, or they might just kill her.
I think she's going to end up in Braavos, man. Jaqen's going to reconnect with her and give her the name in the show, and it's going to be Cersei. Sandor and Jaime are going to be right there too. I think
she doesn't need to be given the name Cersei. She's got released. They know that she's going after Cersei already because she's given them the list.
We're going to get tons of fan service in the show, man. They're going to bring back the Faceless Men just to. There's going to be a scenario where they kill the mountain. The mountain's going down. That's the only way they can get to Cersei. Where Jaime and Arya are almost like going to fight to kill Cersei. I could see it's like,
I mean, I could
I want to kill her. 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 Like, that'd be crazy.
I can certainly see on the show there being like this little kill team going down to King's Landing of like the Hound and Arya, maybe Brienne, Jaime, and they're all going there, and then they're just fighting their way through, and probably Cersei is just trying to cling on to power, trying to burn down the city, and some combination of them get rid of the mountain and say Qyburn and then Cersei.
I think they're going to have to sneak in because Cersei will have shut down King's Landing like Aerys did. She's going to become paranoid. I mean, now she knows about the Army of the Dead, right? And the Golden Company is going there. What reason would she really have to? Other than protect herself, we saw that she was willing to do that at any cost, anyways. I mean, all of her children are dead. So who else is she fighting for? Just herself. She's gonna lock herself in the Red Keep, man.
She is, but Arya at least knows the way in.
Yes, where Illyrio and Varys were having their the cat in the canals.
Absolutely. Okay, right. Let's wrap it up for Arya there. Before we move on to the next one, I just want to make just sort of a quick announcement for my patrons. I can see there's a few of you there. Just to let you know a few things coming. My next narration from the Winds of Winter is coming up. That's going to be the Forsaken chapter, which is a fantastic chapter if you don't know it. This is Aaron, the Dampfair. He's been captured by Euron, and so we see the next stage of what Euron is up to. And in the books, he is so much crazier, so much more charismatic, and just up to so much just mind-blowing stuff. It's a great chapter. So that's coming up for patrons in the next couple of days. Westworld videos for everyone on YouTube, one a week, every Tuesday from now until season 2. And I'm bringing back the Traveler's Guide to Westeros. We're going to be doing Winterfell next. So we've got 4 episodes of the Traveler's Guide in Winterfell coming up. First one may drop later this week, and I'm still going to be doing all of the theory videos once a week as well. So that's what I'm up to. Got loads of other really exciting things planned. Kyle, why don't you tell people what you're up to?
Yeah, so me and Gemma, we recorded our 3rd episode of the Citadel of Hype podcast today. That was really fun. We talked about Ragnarok theory and the binding of Fenrir and Tyr. It's a lot to do with Bran and Jaime Lannister and how we believe that Jaime is possibly Azor Ahype, based on Norse mythology. So that was really fun, and we talked about ice giants and fire giants and mythical beasts and Loki and basically the apocalypse, the Norse apocalypse, and how we think it's happening within Westeros. Other than that, I've just been creating videos and getting ready for Con of Thrones 2018, and yeah, just working hard. A lot of theory crafting and hanging out. I do live streams about twice a week too as well. So try to stay active and get some Q&As in there.
Excellent. And I'm really excited. I've not yet had a chance to check out the podcast that you and Gemma do, but I'm really excited, and I'm trying to leave her a little invite for myself onto one of them in the future. So it should be really good. And as soon as I get a spare moment, I'm going to check them out. Shall we just have a quick just go through a few of the comments just to say hi to a few people who are out there?
I see some regulars here from my channel as well. There's Kyla Dactyl, there's Sammy San, Eduardo Blanco, Stacy Smith, Amberlyn. There's quite a few in here.
Absolutely. For Consternation, Cami, who else have we got here? Kelly Lausman, hi. Stacy Smith, yeah. I've got a lot of my patrons here. It's great to have you. Samid Sands, Laura D, Funny Sturts, never know how to pronounce that. And Florencia. So hi guys. Anyone else? Oh, Leslie, Kelly, Tim. Great to see you.
Vaping Minuteman. I think he's vaping. I think that's what it's supposed to mean. Vaping Minuteman. Huh. I could be wrong. We got 73 people watching and we got 41 likes. I think we can increase that number, everyone. Let's see if we can get to 60 just by saying everyone like this video.
Well, if you're watching it, you can just click on the like. And I didn't say this earlier, you can also, if you're not already, you can go over to Azor Ahype and subscribe there, because he does some great content, and it's now coming out, I think, almost every day, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I do about 6 videos a week, or I work 6 days a week. I take 1 day off, and then 1 day I'll upload 2 videos. I usually do screwing around my camera. I do video logs, and I call this Hype HQ, my little office where I record stuff.
Yeah, I've got a lot of office envy going on here at the moment. As I say, my wall seems very bare compared to yours.
Hey, I sat in a corner with that Stark banner for like a year, so don't feel too bad.
Excellent.
But you can find me on Azor Ahype. I think Robert has it in the description in this video if you want to subscribe and check out some videos. We have a lot of fun on my channel. No negativity. We just celebrate Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire.
Excellent. Okay, so let's get back to the subject. We've already ticked off 2 of the Starks. We've done Sansa, and we've done Arya. So let's have a look at what we think is going to happen to Bran. So shall I just kick this one off and say, I think this is another case of him. He will still be technically alive, but he's going to be so not Bran. He's just going to be like so plugged into the weirwood net and three-eyed raveny, and just like he's not going to be a human anymore. So effectively he's dead, but he's actually technically alive. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think the only way that the Night King will be able to be defeated is if Bran literally skin changes into his, or wargs into his mind. And he's going to have to hold him long enough for Mr. Aegon Targaryen, Jon Snow, to I really wish it was Jaehaerys, by the way, Aegon, to
Probably in the books.
Probably in the books, but to get rid of the Night King. Now, I went on record and said this, and said that I think Bran's perspective will be the final shot of the whole series. I think it's actually going to be a crow sitting in a weirwood tree in Winterfell, and we're going to have that eerie three-eyed raven or White Walker music in the back, and we'll have known that he's ascended or transcended to a point beyond human comprehension of life. He will basically have uploaded himself into the weird net, kind of like the Children of the Forest did. So I think his body will physically die. Think of what happened with Voldemort and Harry, like the Horcrux idea. He got grabbed by the Night King. They're kind of bound. They're both Bran's gonna. That's the bittersweet ending. Bran is going to have to die. Daenerys too, for the Night King to die. So that's the reason why I think he has to go. I think that if he isn't dead, the Night King's just going to keep on coming for him. They can technically kill the Night King, but Bran is going to go to the Isle of the Faces, the God's Eye, which we can talk about. I know you have great thoughts about that too, Robert, where I believe there might still be some Children of the Forest. Howland Reed trained there, and he kind of has to know, so he might be able to pop up in season 8 and let Bran know the importance of that area. But I think that Bran's going to find out something through a flashback where he understands what Benjen really meant, and I think it's going to be kind of a sad moment, really. That's my perspective, though. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I disagree with much of that, actually. I think where I could see, I mean, the question for me is where Bran is physically going to end up, and I do wonder whether he is going to end up underneath Winterfell, plugged into the weirwood there, because the more you look at Winterfell, and obviously I've been looking at this one because I've been doing the Traveler's Guide, doing a bit of research for that, but Winterfell wasn't built as the castle. It was started out with probably almost nothing on the surface, maybe just like one building on the surface. It wasn't like this big castle. Winterfell, when it was built by Bran the Builder, was the crypts, and the crypts were underneath the tree. So the weirwood tree, the whole point of Winterfell is about the weirwood tree, and then you get this huge cave system underneath it, which is very, very much like the Three-Eyed Raven's cave. And so I can certainly see that rather than just, as we saw in the show, Bran like sitting next to the weirwood tree and putting his hand on it every now and then, I can see him actually going down into the crypts and becoming joined up with it there.
I think so too. When I spoke about Bran being, the Raven landing on the weirwood tree in Winterfell, that's certainly something that can happen. Now, when we talk about Bran the Builder, I actually think that we're actually going to see a flashback maybe of that, or the original Azor Ahype. I think we're getting one of the two of those in next season, which is really going to blow our minds, because that one last vision that we had when Bran found out how the Night King was made, they have to expand more on that. They can't just give us no more about the backstory of the Night King or anything like that. We're going to find out that he's a Stark, I think, the Night King personally. But I think, especially in the books, this is talked about. All the magical castles that were built by Bran the Builder, there's some element to do with weirwood. So in that magic, and we saw the Three-Eyed Raven's cave in the show. It's displayed for all of you that haven't read the books. But the magic there was this ward against the magic from the Night King. So I think that it's quite possible that we see a scenario where Bran ends up in the Heart Tree in Winterfell. And just maybe we get a flash forward into the future, and Bran's watching the progression of, the dream of spring. The spring has finally come, and perhaps Jon and Daenerys are gone, and their child is still around being raised, or told the story of the Song of Ice and Fire by someone like Samwell or Tyrion or Sansa. That could be a scenario that we the more nostalgic route that George would like to take with classical storytelling that we got. Kind of, it's still a sweet ending, but it's got that moment of bitterness that George kind of wanted to finish, that he wanted within Lord of the Rings when he read the story. So that could be something that happens too. But I think Bran's going to enter the Weir net for sure. I think he could get trapped there. You know what? Can I ask you and everyone in the chat this question, Robert? Do you think he maybe might get trapped in the Weir net, like searching for answers, and that's the reason he goes down? Because the Three-Eyed Raven talked about how you shouldn't stay in there for too long, right? Is it possible that they, for example, the Night King is just decimating everything, and he's trying to find an answer for Jon, and he gets stuck in there, but somehow he manages to affect something from the past, and it screws up with how the Night King is acting, and Jon is able to kill him.
Yeah, I mean, I think the and do put your thoughts down in the chat on that one. Well, I just want to pick up on something there about the Three-Eyed Raven and what he was saying. I think the fascinating thing about that, and it was actually a really short bit of the series when we had like this sort of training period of Bran being trained. And the thing which was fascinating was that the Three-Eyed Raven seemed really scared of Bran learning what he could do in history. That was the thing that he seemed to be most concerned about. It was the idea that Bran could affect history. And so, it's quite a popular tinfoil theory, but it does make me think that the Three-Eyed Raven did something in history through the Weirwood net that was bad in some way. Now, maybe that was the whispers in the ear of the Mad King to send him mad with the burn them all. I don't know, but the Three-Eyed Raven, certainly in the show, his main focus seemed to be stopping Bran changing history.
Here's the thing. I don't necessarily think that the Three-Eyed Raven was the bad person. Because, listen, we think of the White Walkers as evil, right? The Night King is evil because they're this destructive force. But think about the progression of life. Birth, life, death, rebirth. A dream of spring, okay? What's happening here in the story is we hear this breaking of the wheel, right? This needs to happen for any progress to be made, because what's going on, this hereditary monarchy that's been going on, like these Joffreys of the world and these Cerseis that are just stepping into power and not doing a good enough job, is sending basically everyone into this apocalypse. Now, this was happening on a similar scale 12,000 years ago with the Children of the Forest and the First Men. They didn't respect the values of what was going on with the Children of the Forest. They had this system that was working for them, right? So I think really what's happening is I think that the Three-Eyed Raven, Blood Raven, knew that Bran would have to be this conduit to bring the White Walkers. And I think Blood Raven knew that the White Walkers will be defeated. There's no doubt about this going to happen and things are going to change. But I think that he knew that Bran had to be the one to bring about this destruction for there to be able to have a rebirth in the end. Because without that destruction, things can't be rebuilt anew again. And I think that's where we're going to end up at the end of the story. That's the bittersweet, right? So many people will have sacrificed their lives for something that could have been avoided. I don't think we're going to go back in time and time is going to change or anything like that. But, I think that's the concept that George is trying to instill within us, the natural balance between humans and nature, the natural order, and why that's important. Now, it's interesting because progressively they will need to have new ways of thinking that will change democratically, more of a meritocracy where it's earned and people of any stature can really become part of a community and lend to it. But also they're going to have to go back and use some of the customs of the Children of the Forest and respect nature more as well, because they weren't as appreciative as they should have been or respectful to the old gods or the customs of the original people that were there. So I think rant over. I hope everyone understood what I was saying. But that's the way I interpret things that are going down. It may seem like Bran might be evil in the end because Bloodraven deceived him, or the Three-Eyed Raven deceived him. It's really not about that. Things needed to change anyways.
It's good rant. So, I mean, I always come back to big picture. This is the Song of Ice and Fire. And so where we need to end up is this balance between ice and fire. So when you say the White Walkers need to be defeated, yeah, they do. But I don't think it necessarily has to be like there's a big battle and they're all killed. What has to end up is a situation of balance somehow between ice and fire. So whatever happens roughly to the White Walkers has to happen roughly to the dragons, because either of these two forces could destroy the world if they're left to their own devices. We see it all the time with the White Walkers, but we also see it. What Dany would do if she didn't have Tyrion telling her not to is just go and raise cities to the ground, burning millions to a crisp. So both of these sides need to get balanced in the end. And I think where you'll find the ice side is Bran is naturally that sort of magic. Now I'm going to get to this. I've got an epically long series of videos about the nature of magic that I'm working my way through at the moment. So I'm going to get to this eventually. But the magic of the Starks, the old magic, is linked inextricably to the magic of the White Walkers.
Absolutely. Can I read a little something? There's actually, I know I'm releasing the podcast on Ragnarok tomorrow with Gemma, but there's this stanza when it begins. It's can I read it real quick, Robert?
Yeah, go.
It states itself on the lifeblood of fated men, paints red the power of homes with crimson gore. Black becomes the sun's beams in the summers that follow. Weather's all treacherous. Do you still seek to know? And what brothers will fight and kill each other? Sisters' children will defile kinship. And is a harsh in the world with whoredom rife, an axe age, a sword age. Shields are riven, a wind age, a wolf age. Before the world goes headlong, no man will have mercy on another. So I think we're in the period where Winds of Winter will be the wind age, and then, it's kind of this necessary evil, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. It's from a stanza in the Voluspa poem, Norse mythology. It's called Poetic Edda, the poem Voluspa. It's in a reference to Ragnarok, the end of the world. But if you guys want to go check it out, it will be in the podcast tomorrow. But if some of you want to go research, you just research Ragnarok, and it should be right in the Wikipedia page right there. But basically, it talks about how things have to go to shit. Like there's these cycles, right? Ice Age, Fire Age, and all that. So I think you're kind of on the money there. It's like the dragons will have to end with the White Walkers too. I think they're both going to be gone. I think all the wolves might be gone too. Maybe Ghost will survive. I don't know. I don't have high hopes for it, at least in the show. I think all of the magical beasts will be gone. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't mean to make you all sad.
We'll move on. It's okay. Should we wrap up on Bran?
Yeah, I think so. Because I can go off forever on Bran, man. Like
I think we're actually broadly in agreement here that Bran, he may not technically die, but he's going to somehow get lost in the weirwoods. He's going to get his consciousness. I mean, he's lost an awful lot of it already. If you saw it last season, it was like Bran wasn't really there. It was just like he's the memories of all the people who've been plugged into the Weirwood net before. And when we say plugged into the Weirwood net, that is the people who have been like the Three-Eyed Raven, and also those who've died and their blood has gone into the Weirwood tree, their memories, their experiences, they've all gone into the Weirwoods. And that is what the old gods is that the whispers of these people who have died, who have been sucked up into this sort of consciousness. So Bran has, in a way, already gone. He's already been taken up, and that's just going to get pushed more and more of the case so that he may physically still be sat there, but he's not actually going to be there. Yeah, great. I think we're in agreement on that one. So shall we pick off the last? As I say, we count him as a Stark. Whether or not you do is a different matter. But Jon, What do we think? Why don't you kick off this one then? Because I know you've got strong views on Jon. Is Jon going to die?
No, he's not. Here's the reason. It might be different in the books. It could be wrong. In the show, we got to think about the destinies of Jon and Daenerys. Explain to me, Robert, what do you think the destiny of Daenerys has been so far? Has it been to take the Iron Throne and get back the seat of her house? Would you agree with that?
That's what she views her destiny to be, yeah.
And you would agree that Jon has been solely pretty much worried about his Night's Watch vows and after Hardhome, basically the realms of men, protecting that.
Pretty much.
Okay, so the Song of Ice and Fire, we see all the characters at one point in time start off somewhere else, and they end up somewhere completely different. Daenerys has done this great journey, and I think she will have the ability to claim the Iron Throne, okay? However, she will realize that it's not her destiny, okay? That's why we saw in the House of the Undying vision in the show that she didn't touch the Iron Throne. There was snow falling. She then went beyond the wall through a blizzard, and then she interacted with Khal Drogo and what we're assuming is Rhaego, okay? So here's why I am interpreting that Jon is going to survive. If we think about it, all the things that Dany has said, me wanting to break the wheel, Tyrion saying that night might not happen in your lifetime, and after Jon saying he would bend the knee and her submitting to him saying, yes, I will fight for you, I think that what's going to happen is their destinies are going to switch. I'm not saying switch completely because Martin doesn't always do one-for-ones. But I think that once they figure out, I don't know if it's going to be literal, but Dany has to die for Lightbringer to truly be consummated, whether it's an idea, whether it's a sword, whether it's their child, Dany's going to die. And I don't think she's ever going to sit the Iron Throne. Now, here's the thing. Maybe she already knows. Oh, she will know at some point in season 8 and in the books that Jon would be the better choice anyways. And I think in their relationship, I know people think they're going to be equals. I still think Jon is the alpha dragon. Just the way he submitted to her. You know what I mean? Because think of it this way. It's kind of Arthurian legend with King Arthur. Daenerys has still known royalty. She still knew that she was royalty all of this time. And George is all about deconstructing that. Jon Snow has earned everything he has so far through merit. And that is going to be the change that is inspired at the end. It's going to be like a Knight of the Round Table scenario where there's Jon, Davos, maybe a Tyrion, maybe a Missandei, maybe a Samuel. And there's going to be these people that are left. There's not going to be many of them. But it's not just going to be solely Jon. But Jon will be the head of those people. The small folk. Everyone will have a voice. That will be the dream of spring. You know, it seems pretty sweet, but a lot of people will have died for them to get there. So that's the particular reason why I think that Jon is going to be ruler. I don't necessarily know if there's going to be an Iron Throne. I actually think that Jon could possibly rule from the north, and maybe Tyrion and Sansa could do it from the south or something like that. They could be split up. Or I could be wrong. Jon could die. But that's how I see it. Nobody can talk me off of this ledge, Robert. I don't think Jon has already died once, and I understand the argument of, well, if the Night King dies, magic dies, but Jon is a Stark and a Targaryen. His blood is special, so I don't think he ever was really truly dead. I don't know. That's just me being naive, I guess.
Okay, so I wind you up about this quite a few times, I know, but so Jon. The big problem I have about Jon surviving and becoming king is the fact that this is the biggest fantasy trope out there. The idea that the orphan boy grows up without realizing that he's secretly the heir to the entire kingdom, without realizing that he's secretly the great child of prophecy, and he leads the forces of humanity to defeat the evil others. And then at the end of it, he gets crowned because he's such a wonderful, perfect person. It's a bit Aragorn-y. It's a bit every kind of fairy tale you've ever read. I cannot imagine that George R.R. Martin is going to do that story. I think he's teeing up for it, but then I think he's just going to pull the rug out from us, and that's not going to be where it's at. I think that Jon is at a stage in his life, and when I say life, this is now like in the show, this is his second life, where he has got very few things to live for, and he told Melisandre, if he dies again, don't bring him back. And if maybe he now has Daenerys to live for, but I think we're probably in agreement that she's not hanging around either. So I think that he will probably die in a heroic way and not come back.
Here's exactly why you're wrong on that. Daenerys, would you agree that Daenerys is pregnant? She's going to be pregnant. They're going to have a child.
Probably.
So I think that completely changes everything. I think we're going to end up at the scenario of understanding how much Ned sacrificed. So everything starts to come back again. We're going to end up at Winterfell again. Jon's going to end up at Winterfell with their child. And it's going to be, he will have understood the sacrifice that Ned made. It will be bittersweet because he will have lost the love of his life. Jon doesn't necessarily have to accept being king. It could be like a George Washington type of scenario where he walks away. Actually, I think that's likely. But I think that you don't know what you would be missing, those words from Benjen, and duty is the death of love, love is the death of duty. I don't know, man. Maester Aemon, his words, they resonate so much with me. I just think Jon's going to end up doing his duty. It's going to be sad. He's not going to want to do it, but he's going to do it, and he's going to survive the whole thing.
Well, okay, so let's go back to book and show on this one. So books, if we're right that he's going to die, warg into Ghost, and then be brought back again, probably by Melisandre, he will be a Fire White. This is what George R.R. Martin has effectively said. He said that Beric Dondarrion was a Fire White. He is the precursor to Jon. He is the one who's showing what it's like. And then he gave this is an interview with Time magazine, and then he gave this description of what Beric was like. He's a little less human all the time. He's hideous. The blood isn't pumping in his veins. He's not a human anymore. He's a Fire White. So that is what in the books Jon is going to be like. Now, on the show, clearly Kit Harington is an incredibly pretty boy, and they're not going to do that, give him all the bad makeup. But in the books, that's what he's going to be like.
I don't know. Can you see what I posted in the chat right now, Robert? I haven't been busting out the fake news as much because the person that says it is just a terrible person. But just for the purposes of you, of those of you that know me, know that I love this emoji because it is the Pinocchio emoji. Lies. No, it's not necessarily a lie, but I don't. That Fire White stuff, I don't. Oh man, I can't with that one. It just triggers me, man. The Fire White stuff. But it makes sense though. I mean, the Drown God. Reviving drowning people, and Fire God reviving. Yeah.
What can I say in defense of the Fire White thing? So this to me makes it works with this idea of this balance of ice and fire. So we've got this army of ice which are coming with their ice whites, and they are balanced by this army of fire which is coming, which is going to have fire whites in it. Now, what this means is that we're not faced with ice being the dead and fire being the living. This is two forces that are attacking each other with humanity stuck somewhere in the middle. That to me sounds like what our story is. It's about the balance, and the balance is struck by having both ice whites and fire whites.
So here's an interesting point in the chat. Jesse Noah says, and I think Jon died twice. No way he didn't die when he was under the frozen lake. Dead, dead, dead. Are you going to start to recite patch face there, Jesse? I'm starting to get nervous. That could be a thing too. A lot of things happen in threes in the show. I don't agree, but it's an interesting point. Maybe he doesn't have a choice in the matter. He has to keep on being brought back to fulfill his destiny, and We don't know what that is completely yet. That's the beauty of the story too. The Song of Ice and Fire. It really is the story of highs and lows, because we see all these people at one point in their story, and then they end up at this other point. But that journey is so crazy. The one we've experienced. We talked a little bit about this in the Norse mythology podcast today. The Jormungandr, which is the serpent that encircles the world. I talked about birth, life, death, and rebirth. That idea of that cycle. Same thing with the seasons. The seasons are kind of similar to that too. You know what I mean? There's birth in the spring, life in the summer, death in the fall, and I guess I don't know if rebirth is really winter, but it after the winter, there's birth again. So it's such a crazy story, man. I really wish I didn't get into these message boards. I'm lying. Years ago, and got so hooked on this because I can't stop talking about this damn story anymore. But my prediction is I think Jon makes it. I know it's cliche, but George is still a classical storyteller, and I think they're just going to give Jon a really sad ending where he has experienced true love twice and lost love twice, and he'll understand Ned and Rhaegar's sacrifice, and because Jon, I don't want to say he's the main POV, but in the end, he will have understood all of the really shitty things that happen in his life, man. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, he is the balance of ice and fire. I mean, so this is the whole thing, is that because he's half Stark, half Targaryen, he is this balance, and he's also the great conciliator. He's bringing together wildlings and the people from south of the Wall. So that's his role, is to be like the centerpiece. And so, I mean, the only argument that I see of being in favor of him, that sort of surviving and being on the throne, is this one, that's what he is. He is the one who brings everyone together in the end. And he doesn't want it, he doesn't like it, but he is probably the best man for the job.
Think about this too. I don't like the idea that Rhaegar is Azor Ahype, but maybe Jon partially is Lightbringer, or Jon's Lightbringer is being able to rally people together. Because I think we talked about merit earlier. I think a lot of people really respect Jon, despite him making all these mistakes. Like, people know that he's done all of this without knowing his true lineage. And once he finds it out, he's still going to be the same Jon. I think he will be an even better person. He'll be like, wow, Ned. I keep on going back to Ned. Ned is one of the true heroes of the Song of Ice and Fire, people. Regardless if you don't like his maneuvers in King's Landing, man, Ned was a boss, okay? What he sacrificed, having to lie to his own wife, nuts, man. I'm going to have to go back and read the Ned chapters again. I missed them so much.
Yeah, the show is picking up on that, and it was noticeable on a rewatch of season 7. He's mentioned or quoted in every episode. It's like, I mean, he died years ago, but they're all about Ned Stark and what he's saying and what he stood for and what it was about, and I'll follow you because you're Ned's son and all the rest of it. This is he is the central figure, which is over all of this. Other than how
Robert, we just hit 100 people watching on your first live stream, man.
99. I've got 99.
We just hit 100. We just got one down.
I'm so excited. Thanks, guys. This is really exciting. I mean, I have to. I was saying to Carl before we went live, is that because we just had like a little 5-10 minute chat before we went live. And I was saying it's my first one. I was just wanted to make sure I didn't hit the wrong buttons and stuff. And then there's this sudden thought goes in: what if no one turns up? And then there's 100 people there, and that's amazing. So thank you so much, guys. It's and all the love in the chat has been amazing. Thank you. That's really good.
Man, you picked a great topic. I can talk about House Stark anytime, really. There's just so many layers. Obviously, we get the most POVs from them because there's a bunch of them. But yeah, everyone smash that like button. We're at 78 now. I think we can get to 100 likes. I think we get to 100 likes easy.
Excellent. Okay, guys. Well, shall we wrap it up? And Jon, I wanted to keep this to an hour, so which means you've only got a couple more minutes to hit that like button. If you've not done it yet, just hit it. It's easy. So let's just wrap up on Jon. So I think we sort of disagree on Jon here. You think he's going to survive. You think that tell everyone if I'm wrong here. You think there's a good chance he will end up on the throne. I'm not so sure. I think he could, but I think it's more likely that he's going to die. He's a Firewhite in the books, at least. They've not run with that in the show, and I don't think he wants to live. And I think he will take the first chance once he's done the things he needs to do. I think he'll take the first chance to cop out of there.
Yeah, I think the Iron Throne will actually be destroyed by either Daenerys or Jon, one of the two. And it's possible that it's Jon, but I don't know if there's going to be an Iron Throne in the end. But I think that Jon's going to have a really sad destiny. It's going to mean that he loses almost everything, and he will have realized that his parents are dead. All of his parents are dead. Half of his family are dead. And basically, all of his the loves of his life are dead, but he has this thing in his lap that he doesn't really want, but, I was talking about Ragnarok earlier, the idea of that hope at the end, that rebirth, that slight bit of sweet. It's going to be pretty brutal though. I don't know. I'm probably going to cry every episode. I don't know. I've been getting more and more emotional about it lately. Just even thinking about the last season is next season. Like, I don't know how I'm going to handle it, Robert. I mean, I know we're getting spin-offs, but everybody in the chat, Robert, how do you feel about this? I'm like, I know we have about a year and a half to get there, but still.
I mean, I know exactly what I mean. It's just like, it's the not knowing that's the thing that really hurts at the moment. Is that if I knew, if I had in my mind a clear idea of what's going to happen, I could kind of cope with it. But because, and I'm trying to stay as spoiler free as I possibly can, I honestly do not actually know what's going to happen to these characters, and that is actually killing me, because we could go into season 8 and any of the people that I really care about might die. I mean, there's some of the characters I don't care about so much, but if Tyrion goes, I'm just going to throw things at the TV. I tell you.
Oh no, there's no way Tyrion perishes. He's like 3 people are safe: Sansa, Tyrion, and Samwell. Those 3 are 100% making it. I guarantee it. There you go. Seal stamp of approval from Kyle. I don't know.
Excellent. Okay, guys. So I'm going to wrap it up there. This has been fantastic. I've really loved this. I'm definitely doing live streaming again. Definitely going to get Kyle on again. You guys don't. I'm sure you do know this, but Kyle is such an amazing ambassador for the community. He's a really good guy. Behind the scenes with the other creators, Kyle is always being so supportive, always just sharing the love, just sharing his expertise and knowledge. He's an amazing person. So Kyle, thank you so much for being here. Do you want to just say goodbye, tell people where to find you if they don't know where you are?
Robert, coming from you, that means a lot, man. So thank you so much for those kind words. Yeah, yeah, the thing is about the Song of Ice and Fire and a Game of Thrones. This is a little before we go. The thing I've understood is there's a lot of different opinions, right? And there's a lot of disagreeing. Despite all of that, I think that we're going to get the last 2 books at some time. But before the end of season 8, what I'm trying to do and trying to get everyone to realize is that we all need to celebrate this together as much as possible, because when it's gone, that luster is going to be gone. This is one of the best TV shows of all time. So that makes me excited. The fact that there's so many intelligent people like all of you that are out there that I'm able to discuss these plot points with, like war, love, hate, magic, religion, all of these things that we contemplate through human consciousness. So that's why I personally love it so much. But yeah, you'll continue to see lots of videos from me. I'm not going to stop anytime soon. And I'm really excited for 2018. I think it's the perfect opportunity to keep on going and making Game of Thrones and Song of Ice and Fire content. So thanks for having me, Robert. And if you do want to check out the channel, more the merrier. I'm happy to have you. I'd love to chat with each and every one of you. Thanks for having me, man.
Fantastic. Thanks, Kyle. Just a reminder to my patrons, the next bit of my narration from the Winds of Winter will be arriving for patrons in the next couple of days. going back to doing the videos of the Traveler's Guide to Westeros. We're going to be in Winterfell again. That's in the next couple of days, and there's going to be Westworld videos every Tuesday from now until season 2. Thanks, guys. It's been a real pleasure. It's been great having Kyle on. I've been looking at the chat. So many great comments are going through. So many fantastic people I've just seen. Thank you. We will be doing this again. I will definitely have Kyle on again. Check out his channel. Go subscribe. Take care, guys. I shall see you all soon.